All right, we're joined now by the winning crew chief of the number 18 Skittles Red, White, and Blue Toyota, Adam Stevens. We're going to open it up for questions. Bob in the back.
Bob Hockris, ESPN. You don't score points in either of the two stages. I don't know if you would have thought you'd be here before the race even started. What went right that last 107 laps?
Yeah, well, we just weren't very good, Bob, to put it honest. We missed it all weekend. Short practices and limited sets of tires, and we didn't unload very good and barely made any gains on it through practice, and took a swing at it for the race and probably made it a little bit better, but it just wasn't very good. And this tire combination is pretty finicky. The grip level is low, especially with the track conditions and the bumps. So he just had his hands full, and we had our hands full. But we kept working on it and made it a little bit better. And I think we missed the splitter height a little bit. So anytime we got some clean air on the nose, it was a different race car. And through a couple adjustments late and ratcheting up with some track position on some good pit stops and some good restarts, we kind of showed the speed we had late.
Jessica Ruff of NASCAR.com. You kind of touched on the strong pit stops you guys had, and you guys were able to gain the lead off pit road using that pit stop. So what makes those guys so good at what they do, and how is that important in these weeks going forward when that can make a huge difference?
Well, I mean, obviously pit stops have been a huge part of this sport for as long as the sport's been around. So that's not going to change. What makes them so good is practice, hard work, dedication. We have a whole department of people that put their time and their talent and their energy into that and, optimize it the best we can. And we have a great mix of guys that really work well together and believe in each other and believe in what we're trying to do as a team. And when you're this far off and making as many changes as we did today, and for them to keep their heads down and for the driver to keep his focus and keep his elbows up for as awful as we were, and to come out of here with a win is really rewarding.
Jerry Jordan, KickingTheTires.net and Performance Racing Network. You touched on this in the past about how good Kyle is, but do you ever think or wonder, hey, is there anything this guy can't do behind the wheel to get a car that's, as you admit, it wasn't the best it could be?
Is there things he can't do? I mean, it's all situational. He's a one in a million talent. The sport hasn't seen too many people with his level of talent. To get the chance to race with him and win some races with him is what every little boy dreams about, I guess. So, to his credit today, it would have been easy to get frustrated and throw in the towel, as hot as it was and as far off as we were. And I'm sure he didn't have real high hopes going into the race, since we struggled in practice and we struggled in qualifying. But just listening to him on the radio today, as focused as he was and as committed as he was to making it better. Anytime I told him something, he believed it and he got on it. And his feedback to make the car better, even through all those trials and tribulations, was as good as it could have been, given how poor our car was.
Nate
Ryan, NBC Sports. Sorry. Adam, I was going to read you what Kyle Larson said about the last lap. He said, "I hit him first, I roughed him up, he roughed me up. That's racing." From the team perspective of that last lap, you talked about that collective effort. Are you and the guys sort of expecting Kyle to, if he can get back to the guy who just moved him out of the way and made contact, you're expecting Kyle that he's got every right to just pay him back and win the race that way?
Oh, sure. And we kind of finished where we were running before that whole fiasco. Both of us did, and it probably wouldn't have gotten there if the lap cars would have left the lane, which traditionally they do. They're not obligated to do that, but he closed that gap when we got bottled up and took his opportunity to get into us. And I don't have any problem with that at all. He didn't wreck us. He definitely got into us and he got the lead. And we got into him and we got the lead back. That's the way we all grew up racing at some level. You smile and you move on. One of these days it'll happen again and we won't get it back. It's just the way that it goes. I was biting my nails and saying prayers and just waiting for the race to be over, so I'd have to go back and watch to pin it down on who held us up the most.
Any more questions for Adam?
Sharon from Fans Racing Blog and Radio. I'm curious to know if the weather had any impact on the crew themselves, because it was pretty tough being out there for the length of the race and the kind of heat that we were dealing with.
Yeah, you know, not so much for the mechanics and the engineers and myself behind the wall, but for the guys that go over the wall, a lot of them pitted cars yesterday. Not all of them as a complete crew, but quite a few of them did. And when you're doing 3 or 4 stops on Saturday and 8 or 9 stops on a Sunday with as hot as it is, you have to be prepared. And we all knew that the conditions, what they were going to be when we came in. So they focused on really staying hydrated and limiting the reps during the week so they were fresh for this weekend.
Bob?
Bob Pockris, ESPN. Did you expect Kyle Larson to dump Kyle, considering that Kyle Larson hadn't won yet this year, or is Kyle Larson's reputation that he's not going to just dump somebody?
I didn't. I never expect to get dumped, no. And I don't believe that he dumped us in any way, shape, or form. He just gassed it up and used whatever tools he had necessary to try to win the race. Would, you know, if you flip those roles, would it happen that way? It's quite possible. You know, it seemed just like a hard racing move to me.
Dustin Long?
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Even with the win, when you look back at this, what more does this team need to do to be more dominant, to be stronger? Obviously, the Stewart-Haas cars seem to be the class of the field throughout the good part of the race. Are they starting to distance themselves, or where do you guys feel like you need to climb and keep working these next 9 weeks?
That's a good question, but I mean, I really feel like it's week to week. You have to take each race. All the tracks are so particular, and the tire combinations, and what you fight and what you work on, and how that transfers to another place. You know, but yeah, they are fast. They were fast all weekend, so. You know, this tire combination and this racetrack and us unloading so far off, we got to unload better. We have to get it dialed in before we get here if we want to be able to compete consistently with a short schedule like this. You know, we didn't have a lot of time, a lot of tires, limited practice. So you have to unload close when you have limited practice time like we had this weekend.
Any more? Dustin?
And can you give a perspective, maybe from a crew chief's point of view? We know Kyle Larson runs the high line a lot of times, and certainly he did a lot. I know traffic helped him, but he did a lot to kind of close the gap. What is there an appreciation of what he's able to do that most people don't understand? And if so, can you explain what that appreciation might be of what, in one sense, what did we see out of Kyle Larson today that maybe people don't quite recognize?
Yeah, Kyle is the best at running the top. And any track we go to where that groove opens up, he's going to be a threat. It doesn't matter if his setup is perfect or if his car's the fastest. He can squeeze that last couple percentage out of it running the high line. You see it, you see it here, you see it at Homestead, you see it anywhere. And it's super impressive how close he can enter on the wall and how quickly he can get back to the throttle. And have complete control of his car so close to the wall, lap after lap. I don't think there's ever been anybody that I can recall that's been able to do that. And I'm sure it's the dirt track skills and the way he grew up and what he raced growing up. And, I mean, it just speaks to his talent. But it's not easy to do. It's super easy to make a mistake, and you're really walking a fine line, and he can walk it better than anybody.
Any more questions for Adam? Press box?
No questions.
All right. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Coach, how's it feel to be back in Victory Lane?
It feels awesome, believe me. To get to come to Chicago, and the thing I always reflect on, too, is all of our sponsors that were here today. And just a huge deal for us. Toyota, all the people were here. And so it's a big deal. And every time we get a chance to win a race, I realize how fortunate we are. And I always like to emphasize that our sponsors here in this sport are really partners They're on the car, part of the car, and we wouldn't be racing cars if it wasn't for Mars and Skittles. We wouldn't be racing this car. So just a huge thanks to them. Called everybody, thanking them. And today was just a day where, hey, they never gave up. You were talking to Adam. Just a great job with the car. At one point on a pit stop about halfway, he said, hey, look, we're just going to come on pit road and work on this thing. We're not going to, he said, we're not going to run 12th all day. And they made several adjustments to it. And in the end, the way it came alive is just, it was, I haven't seen that very often. And Kyle never gives up. He's after it. And our pit crew did a great job too. So just a total team effort. I really want to say thanks to all of our everybody back at the race shop, JD, everybody in the front office, Coy, and everybody on in our team. I wish they could be here with us and help celebrate.
All right, we'll open it up for questions. Coach, just what do you think about how the Stewart-Haas cars ran today, and are you catching up to them?
I think they've been very strong this year. I think they probably have the lead. All their cars seem to be strong and fast. And, you know, I think they've just done a great job. And when you see that in the sport, I think what it says to us is we got to work hard. We got to go to work and get after it. And we need to try and get all four of our cars. We did a good job today. I think we all four of us were in the top 11. So that was a good day for us. And Daniel fought back and did a great job. Eric, that's 2 top 10s in a row for him. And Denny came back from that spin. And so all the way across the board, I was proud of our guys today.
Nate Ryan?
Nate Ryan, NBC. Coach, Kyle was greeted by a rather large boo when he celebrated in the front stretch, and he had some fun with it. I know that's nothing new to him. That's nothing new for you in terms of seeing it, but you've watched a lot of professional sports in your time, and guys get cheered. What's it like for you to watch a guy who wins and gets booed that way?
Well, I think, first of all, our fans, if there's anything you really appreciate, is the passion that they have. And, you know, for any driver, I think that particularly the guys up at top, you're going to have a certain number that are going to be cheering for you, and then there's going to be a bunch, if you're winning, that, you know, going to cheer against you. But I really appreciate our fans. I know Kyle does too. And I think that's the thrill of our sport, is the way they care about it. And so, yeah, I think it's just one of those things that happen, particularly in a race like everything that happened today. You know, you just know that there's going to be a lot of emotion involved with it.
Dustin?
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. While I know you're competing against a lot of other teams with the strength of Stewart-Haas Racing, to you, are they almost like the Dallas Cowboys?
No, I actually hated the Dallas Cowboys, so that's not quite to that point. That's a joke, okay, for everybody in here. I don't want the nasty letters, okay? No, but I do think, you know, you think back to football, and one of the things I miss is those great rivalries, and certainly it was Redskins and Cowboys. It was a great one. You weren't on the fence. You were either a Cowboy or a Redskin. But I think, you know, I think when you see up here, I think the great thing about our sport is that you have drivers competing, and the fans, a lot of them have their favorite driver, and so the drivers compete. I think then the race teams compete, and you see a lot of Hendrick and Roush and everybody out there. So the race teams compete, and then obviously the manufacturers compete. There's Toyota guys, there's Chevy guys, there's Ford guys. I love that about our sport. And because of that, hey, there's going to be a lot of cheers and a lot of boos. But I love that part of our sport. And I think that's part of what makes our sport so much fun. And so I really enjoy that part of it. And every Sunday or Saturday night, whenever we're racing, or Saturdays, I just love getting up knowing that you got a chance to go and compete and try and beat the best people in the world at racing cars.
And also wanted to ask you, with what Kyle Larson has done in his career, and obviously he still has more to accomplish, but what Kyle Larson's done in his career, the electricity that he kind of presents to the fans on the track. In your years in the NFL, is there an athlete that he compares to that provided that electricity, that maybe must-watch ability every time they were on the field, or somebody that always caught your attention when you went up against them?
Yeah, I think it's hard for me in that sport because there's so many great players over there that had charisma and the way they approach things. People ask me that question a lot, and I really can't pick out one player. But certainly he has, the way he handles everything is just great. And, of course, his ability and talent. I saw him coming, and I said, man, this is a problem. And so he's extremely talented. My grandson was racing go-karts at Woodbridge. I go up there, and there's Kyle Larson. We're on a Wednesday night racing dirt go-karts. I think he loves it. He's really good at what he does, and you got a lot of respect for him.
Any more questions for Coach?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.